Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday, July 29th. It's hot down here in Florida, but it's Florida, summertime, but I know it's hot pretty much all over the country. So try to stay cool. Me personally, I actually like the heat. Doesn't bother me. So market was down today. I was expecting this. I told you guys that I thought just off of sentiment alone that we were going to get a little bit of a pullback here. No big deal. Yesterday was a net drain of 14 billion. So that could have played into today's decline as well. I see a positive environment by the end of the week, Thursday, Friday. Friday's the first of the month, so we're going to have big flows on Friday because we got those regular first of the month payments. Plus, we have a Social Security payment. So Friday's going to see large transfers, net transfers into the system. So that should be bullish. So I would use this dip this week. Tomorrow's the Fed. They're not going to cut rates. Everybody's going to be hanging on every word. You know me, I don't pay attention to it. I don't pay attention to it. Whatever the Fed does, I'll adjust if I have to. I understand what interest rate changes are. I don't get all crazy about it. I don't get all crazy about headlines. Just like I stick with the flows. If they change interest rates, it has that will have a meaning for the flows going forward. And that's it. I mean, it's just if you have the understanding, then you know what the impact is going to be. And if you know what the impact is going to be to the flows, you can make a very good assessment of economic conditions, looking out into the future. So I don't pay attention. I don't, my report is not all revolving around monetary policy like everything else that's out there in terms of financial analysis, economics. If you subscribe to anything, if you listen to these ridiculous business shows and these pundits, the entire framework is going to be that. It's going to be a framework based on an incorrect understanding of how the monetary system operates. Basically, that's what it is. I mean, I talked yesterday about how all these guys are freaking out once again over this idiotic treasury refunding, like some kind of calamity or disaster is up ahead, like the train is going to go off the tracks. And we go through this every single freaking time. I don't pay attention. I keep my eye focused on the flows. That tells me what economic conditions are going to be. And based on economic conditions, I know what I got to do. In stocks, other risk assets, gold, commodities, bonds, etc. Bonds, I follow what the Fed does because they set rates. The Fed is the rate setter. Rates are not set by what the government issues. It might have a very little short-term impact, just as dealers, they may lower their bids, they may, raise their bids based on the volume in a particular day or something like that. But I mean, that's not what sets interest rates. The central bank sets interest rates. It's the monopolist rate setter. So I don't pay attention. Why am I going to make myself crazy? I'll let everybody else make themselves crazy, and then I take their money. We take their money. I'm not going to play that game because, first of all, it's a losing game. And second of all, it's wrong. I mean, don't you have any interest in understanding how things actually work? Or that's meaningless to you? Because if you think that understanding how things work and making money, sometimes that's true, but the only times I've seen that to be true is basically when people have some sort of an edge, and by edge, I'm talking about, inside information or something of that nature. And I believe I can speak to that honestly and with some authority, because I not only witnessed it, I participated in it when I was a floor trader back in the 80s on the NYMEX, trading oil. I told this story many, many times. I had a friend who worked for a big oil company. I'm going to leave the name of the company nameless. And he used to call me up at my booth on the NYMEX and say, Mike, I'm going to be coming in buying, so go buy 100 contracts. And I would go in, quietly scoop up 100 contracts, whatever, heating oil, gasoline, step out of the pit, and then he'd come in a couple of minutes later and bid the price up. And then I would sell out. So things like that. And, that was, I'm being honest here. If you think that making money is not tied to having an understanding about, how things work, then the only way, there's only two ways you can justify that logic, if you want to call it that. I don't think it's logic at all, but for lack of another word. One way is that people who make money and don't understand, they're lucky and they get it sometimes. The old broken clock is right twice a day kind of thing. And usually those people who are lucky, they'll make it and then they'll give it back. I have another story I could tell you about that, which I will in a second. The second way is the way I just described. When people have some sort of an edge, and inside information is not the only thing. There was a time also, I could tell you from my floor trading days, when I stood next to a broker in the pit who was filling a lot of paper, executing a lot of orders for customers, and he would give me the edge on every trade. So like if I'm bid, he'd hit my bid and I would immediately be able to sell at the offer. So I'd scalp, I'd make a tick every day, all day long. The worst thing that would happen would be I would scratch, break even. Maybe every once in a while I would lose one tick. But every day it was like a cash machine. I would buy at the bid or sell at the offer, turn right around and take a tick or two profit. So that's it. If you think that not understanding how things work is not important, you could still make money, then I hope either you have a situation like I had, or you're just lucky all the time. I mean, there are people in Vegas who get lucky. There are also people who are very, very skilled when they play, let's say, blackjack or poker. And the skill in those games, I would equate to having knowledge here in terms of how the system works, how the economy functions, and understanding. Anyway, what was I going to say? I thought I was going to say I had something else, but now I forgot what it was. Maybe it'll come to me. 14 billion drain yesterday. Look, I saw something in the tariffs the last couple of days, and it could maybe just be a 2-day thing. But the daily tariff taxes, let's call it that, customs and excise taxes, that's what they're called on the daily treasury statement. The daily tariff drag seems to have increased now to about between 400 and 450 million a day. And that would be if that's true, now I only have 2 days that I'm looking at, so that could be nothing, okay? But if actually we're seeing now an increase in the daily tariff drag, that's close to $500 million. So we're talking about what? Close to 8 to 10 billion a month. Now, I believe it's the last Thursday of every month, you get that big tariff hit. It's been like 19, almost 20 billion. So if that daily tariff drag has now bumped up to like 400, 500 million, Now we're talking, we're over 30 billion a month. And like I said, that's not nothing. All right? That's significant. But right now, the flows are strong. Net transfers, I mentioned the other day that, they dropped a little tiny bit last week because of, that was last week we had that big tariff tax, 19 billion. But the year over year net government transfers, they came down like 10 billion. That's pretty much inconsequential. But that's a number, or that's a series, that's a comparison that I have to continue to watch. That's important. And I don't know what's happening with the August 1st tariffs at Trump. I think he pushed already back the Chinese thing another 90 days. So like I said yesterday in my video, I'm not paying attention to the headlines. I just look at the numbers. I'll know. Like I'm telling you right now that I think maybe the daily drag has just bumped up by almost 50%. See, nobody's going to tell you this stuff. You're not going to, I think I'll just open up the Wall Street Journal and corroborate. They might tell you this a month from now or something, if they even do. They don't even know what they're looking at. I mean, I stopped reading the Wall Street Journal, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe, because it's just junk. I don't watch these shows. People sometimes send me clips from CNBC or Fox Business. I mean, I was a Fox contributor, for over 10 years. And I quit. I walked away from it. People used to ask me, how could you walk away from such a cool job like that? You were at a major network, you were on TV, people saw you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore. Sitting there arguing with idiots, with fools. I mean, we had people on there who had no idea of economics. We had economists who had no idea of economics, let alone the fact that they brought on people like from comedians, actors. They don't know. And I have to try to explain this stuff. I mean, it got to the point where I don't need this kind of headache. This is just ridiculous. I'm not walking around to try to be famous, all right? To me, this whole thing, make money, and also I have to say, it's intellectually stimulating for me. I like it. And writing the report, people might say, why do you write the report if if you're a trader and you've been doing this? The report, and I've explained this many times, the report helps me understand my process because I have to explain it to people. It helps me understand my process of figuring out the economy. It helps me understand my process of having a strong grasp of MMT, of markets. It's a very useful exercise for me to put together the report and to talk about what's in it. It just helps me understand my process. It gets me deeper into that understanding. It's very, very beneficial for me. Very beneficial. It's like, I don't know, it's like if you keep a journal about something, about your life or whatever, and then it really makes you think. It makes you think about, your behavior, your feelings, who knows what, relationships, your activities. You got to write it down. You got to write it down. So that makes you think about it. And we're thinking all the time. I mean, we're always thinking and thoughts are flying in and out of our head. But if you actually have to write something down, and it's got to be coherent, and you want to go back and read it at some point, there's a lot of information in that. I mean, you grow from that. You learn from that. I used to laugh at people who keep journal. I don't keep a journal, but I mean, like, to me, the process of putting together the report, to me, that's like equivalent to keeping a journal. Like, I got to write stuff down. I got to do the work. We could think about things all day long, but when you actually have to sit down and do the work and write it down, that takes you deep inside. And, it's sometimes you see things in that process that you weren't aware of. It's true. So anyway, tomorrow the Fed, everybody will be whatever. Powell, I mean, in one sense, I got to hand it to the guy because he's a stubborn mother effer. He really is. Like, I don't know if most people would have been able to take it with all that public criticism heaped on him by Trump. And that picture of him the other day, last week, when Trump visited the Fed building to talk about the renovations, and he looked like this shaky, frail, little old man next to Trump. I thought he was going to, I thought he was going to start crying. He looked really, really frightened and frail and fragile. But he's tough, man. I don't know if most people could handle it. Like I think I even said in a video a couple of weeks ago, I said, he's definitely going to quit. He's out. No, he's not. So anyway, that's it for today, folks. End of the week. I'm looking for a resumption of this rally. Flows are very strong. We're coming to what could possibly be an inflection point. I've been talking about this. You got August 1st, which supposedly some more of these tariffs go on. I don't know. Again, I'm going to follow the numbers. But you have October, end of September is when these salaries end for government workers who resigned under the Doge offer that Elon Musk offered these people, a resignation. You'll have your salary through the end of September. Okay, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. And also, how does the BBB play out? I mean, the OMB, Office of Management and Budgets, or the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, says it's going to add like $340 billion to they call it the deficit. I don't say the deficit. I say net government transfers. They say it's gonna play out as $340 billion increase in the deficit. In other words, increase in net government transfers over 10 years. If that's the case, and they're looking at everything. They're looking at the spending cut side. They're looking at the tax cut side. If that's the case, that's bullish as hell. If that's the case, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing, that the CBO, that's not a nonpartisan. I mean, there's politics in there, okay? And when they talk about, the deficit's going to go up, that they're putting that out there as a negative. They're not understanding it the way we understand it, as transfers to the economy. They're like, oh, the government's going to have a deficit. So like, it's being put out there as a negative. But it's not. And if that ends up to be the actual, what we're going to see in the numbers, that's bullish as hell. And so you can make your retirement in the next 5 years on that. Easy. So let's see. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. See you tomorrow. Bye.